The first snow of December had arrived in the small town of Elmsworth, painting the rooftops white and turning the streets into glistening ribbons of ice. People moved quickly, their breath puffing in tiny clouds as they hurried to the warmth of their homes and shops. The cold was biting, sharp enough to turn noses red and make hands ache, even through gloves. But for little Emma Collins, the cold was something she knew too well, something she had learned to live with. Emma was 12 years old, small for her age, with chestnut brown hair that tumbled past her shoulders and big green eyes that sparkled with quiet determination. She lived with her mother, who worked double shifts at the diner near Main Street. Money had always been tight, but this year was harder than usual. Her mother's car had broken down in November, and the repair bill had swallowed the little savings they had. Emma's winter coat, once navy blue and thick, was now faded and torn at the elbows. The zipper no longer worked, and she had to fasten it with a safety pin to keep the cold from creeping in. Still, she wore it proudly every day, wrapping her scarf twice around her neck before walking to school through the frosty streets. The other children noticed, of course. They didn't mean to be cruel, but sometimes words slipped out. "Your coat looks like it's older than the school," a boy had laughed once. Emma had smiled anyway. She didn't want pity. She knew her mother was doing her best. On one particularly cold morning, as snowflakes drifted lazily from the gray sky, Emma stopped by Mr. Thompson's bakery. The warm smell of bread and cinnamon rolls always greeted her like a hug. She often paused there to press her hands against the window for warmth before walking on to school. That morning, Mr. Thompson noticed her. He was a kind man in his 50s, with silver hair and a belly that hinted at years of tasting his own pastries. He wiped his hands on his apron and stepped outside, his breath forming clouds. "Cold day, isn't it?" he said with a gentle smile. Emma nodded. "Yes, sir. But it's pretty, too." He chuckled. "That it is. Snow makes everything look cleaner, doesn't it?" She smiled back. "It makes the world quiet." Mr. Thompson tilted his head, studying the girl. He noticed her coat, too small, the sleeves barely reaching her wrists, and the safety pin glinting in the light. His smile softened. "You've got a poet's heart, young lady," he said. Then he reached into his pocket and handed her a small paper bag. "Here. A warm bun for the walk. On the house." Her eyes widened. "Really? Really? I can't have my favorite window visitor freezing out here." She took the bag, the warmth seeping into her fingers. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson." "Stay warm, Emma," he said, though he knew warmth was something she didn't have much of. That evening, when her mother came home, her face tired but smiling, Emma handed her the remaining half of the bun she had saved. "You should have this, Mom. Mr. Thompson gave it to me." Her mother hesitated but took it, her eyes soft with gratitude and sadness. "You always find the good in people, sweetheart," she said. Days passed, and the temperature dropped even further. Christmas lights began to twinkle along Main Street, and shop windows filled with red ribbons and paper snowflakes. Emma loved walking past them, though she never expected to have gifts waiting under their small tree at home. Just being together with her mom was enough. One afternoon, after school, Emma saw something she couldn't ignore. A small boy, maybe 6 or 7, was sitting on a bench near the park, shivering violently. His clothes were thin, and his little hands were purple from the cold. He had no gloves, no hat, and no one around him. Emma's heart clenched. She looked around, but no adult seemed to be watching him. She approached slowly. "Hey there," she said softly. "Are you okay?" The boy looked up, his lips trembling. I lost my mom. We were walking, and then I couldn't find her." Emma crouched beside him. "It's okay. We'll find her. What's your name?" "Liam." "Hi, Liam. I'm Emma." She noticed him rubbing his arms, his small body shaking. Without a second thought, she unpinned her coat and wrapped it around him. It hung loose on his little frame, but at least it was warm. "You can't," he started to say. "Shoo," she said, smiling gently. "You need it more than I do." For a moment, his eyes, gray like storm clouds, met hers, full of disbelief and gratitude. Together, they walked toward Main Street, Emma leading him to the bakery, which was still open. The bell chimed as they stepped inside, and the wave of warmth hit them both. Mr. Thompson looked up. "Emma. What's happened?" "This is Liam," she said quickly. "He's lost his mom." The baker's face grew serious. "Let's get him warm first." He brought a blanket from the back and wrapped it around the boy. Then he called the police to report a lost child. Within half an hour, a woman burst through the door, her cheeks red and her eyes frantic. "Liam," she cried, rushing forward to scoop him into her arms. "Mom," the boy gasped, clutching her tightly. The woman's relief turned to tears as she thanked Emma over and over. "You're an angel," she said, wiping her eyes. "Thank you for taking care of him." Emma smiled shyly. "He was cold. That's all." When they left, Emma waved, the corners of her lips trembling slightly. Mr. Thompson noticed her shivering and realized she was wearing only a thin sweater now. "Emma, you gave him your coat, didn't you?" he asked quietly. She nodded. "He needed it more." The baker's throat tightened. "You're a good girl, Emma Collins." That night, she walked home in the snow, her arms wrapped around herself. The wind bit into her skin, and her fingers went numb, but she didn't regret it. When she got home, her mother gasped. "Emma. Where's your coat?" "I gave it to a boy who was lost," she said simply. "He didn't have one." Her mother's eyes filled with tears, tears of pride, fear, and love all tangled together. She hugged her daughter tightly. "You've got the biggest heart I've ever known," she whispered. "But promise me you'll stay safe." "I will, Mom." The next morning, Emma woke to a knock at the door. When she opened it, Mr. Thompson stood there, holding a large brown box wrapped in red ribbon. Snow dusted his hat and shoulders. "Merry early Christmas," he said with a grin. Emma blinked. "What is this?" "Open it and see." Inside was a brand new winter coat, soft, thick, and the color of deep forest green. There were gloves, a matching scarf, and even a pair of fuzzy earmuffs. Emma stared at it, speechless. "Mr. Thompson, I can't." "Yes, you can," he interrupted gently. "You gave away the only coat you had because someone else needed it. That kind of kindness deserves to come back to you." Her mother, standing behind her, wiped a tear from her cheek. "You didn't have to do this," she said. He smiled. Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness deserve the biggest thank you. That evening, Emma wore the new coat on her walk. It was the warmest thing she had ever felt, not just because of the fabric, but because of the love it carried. When she passed the bakery window, she caught her reflection and smiled. But the story didn't end there. Over the next few days, people in Elmsworth heard about what Emma had done. Mr. Thompson told the story to his customers, who told their friends, and soon the whole town knew about the little girl who gave away her coat. At school, even the children who had once teased her looked at her differently. One girl, Clara, came up to her during recess and said, "Hey, Emma. My mom and I are collecting old winter clothes to donate. Want to help?" Emma's face lit up. "Yes. I'd love to." Together, they started a small drive, putting up posters around town. People began dropping coats, scarves, and blankets at the school gym. Within a week, they had collected enough to fill 3 boxes. When they delivered them to the local shelter, the staff thanked them warmly. Emma felt her heart swell with happiness. It wasn't about recognition, it was about knowing that somewhere, someone wouldn't have to shiver in the cold tonight. That winter, Elmsworth became a little kinder. Strangers held doors open, neighbors shared food, and laughter echoed through the streets despite the chill. And every time someone mentioned the girl with the warmest heart, Emma would blush and say, "It wasn't me. It was the coat." But everyone knew the truth. The warmth had never come from the coat itself, it had come from Emma. As winter melted into spring, the snow gave way to blossoms and birdsong. Emma still wore the green coat, though she no longer needed it every day. It had become more than just clothing, it was a reminder. A reminder that even when you have little, you can still give much. Years later, when Emma was grown, she still remembered that day, the frightened little boy on the bench, the kindness of Mr. Thompson, and the way a single act had rippled through an entire town. One afternoon, walking through Elmsworth with her own daughter, she passed the old bakery. The sign was faded now, though the smell of bread was the same. Her daughter, a bright-eyed girl with a ponytail, tugged at her hand. "Mom, why do you always smile when we pass here?" Emma looked through the window, her reflection merging with memories. "Because," she said softly, "this is where I learned what real warmth feels like." Her daughter tilted her head. "From the bread?" Emma laughed, her eyes glistening. "No, sweetheart. From kindness." And as they walked on, the wind carried her laughter down the street, gentle, warm, and timeless. The kind of warmth that no winter could ever take away.